When my parents invited me to a family celebration, I thought, just for once, they actually wanted me there. But as I stood in that packed restaurant, staring at a "Congratulations, Ryan" banner while everyone else took their seats, I realized the truth. I wasn't a guest at this party. I was an afterthought. And by the end of the night, they wouldn't just ignore me. They'd expect me to pay for the whole thing. I should have walked away right then and there. But I didn't. And that was my first mistake. I forced a smile, shoving down the knot tightening in my stomach. Maybe it was just an oversight. Maybe they didn't expect me to come, so they forgot to set a place for me. Maybe, just maybe, this wasn't another reminder that I didn't belong. I looked around, hoping someone would acknowledge my presence, offer me a seat, make room. Instead, my brother Ryan smirked, leaning back in his chair like a king on his throne. "Oh," he said, voice dripping with amusement. "Didn't know you were coming." Mom glanced at me briefly, shifting uncomfortably. Dad, as always, just stared at his plate. No invitation, no apology, just silent confirmation of what I already knew. I clenched my jaw. "There's no seat for me?" Mom hesitated. "We weren't sure if you'd be free," she mumbled, barely meeting my eyes. Ryan chuckled under his breath. "Or if you'd even bother to show up. You're never around for family stuff." Family stuff, like all the events they conveniently forgot to invite me to. I took a slow breath, forcing myself to stay composed. "So, what are we celebrating?" I asked, my voice neutral. Ryan's face lit up with pride. "I got promoted." I blinked. "Didn't you just start that job 2 months ago?" "Yeah," he said, puffing out his chest. "And now I'm assistant manager." A slow, bitter laugh bubbled up in my throat. I had spent years clawing my way up in my career, working twice as hard for half the recognition, and never once had my parents so much as acknowledged my achievements. But Ryan gets a minor promotion after 2 months in an entry-level job, and suddenly he's the second coming of Einstein? I should have been angry. I should have called them out right then and there. But I didn't. Instead, I just nodded, letting the weight of it all sink in. Got it. And with that, I turned and walked out. I didn't look back. Let them have their little celebration. Let them pat Ryan on the back for something that barely deserved a mention. I was done trying to fit into a family that clearly didn't have space for me. But as I walked to my car, something told me this wasn't over. Before we continue, I want to connect with you, my amazing viewers. Where are you watching from? Drop your country's flag in the comments below. I'd love to see where our community is from. The next morning, a knock on my door jolted me awake. I groggily checked my phone. No missed calls, no messages asking where I had gone last night. Of course not. But now, standing outside my apartment, were the very people who had ignored me for years. Mom and Dad. Mom was wringing her hands, looking sheepish. Dad just looked exhausted, like he'd rather be anywhere but here. I opened the door but didn't step aside. "What do you want?" Mom sighed dramatically, as if I was the one being difficult. "We need to talk." "Talk about what? Can we come in?" I crossed my arms. "That depends. What do you need to talk about?" Dad rubbed his temples. "Look, we need a favor." A favor. Now they needed me. I should have slammed the door in their faces right then and there. But curiosity got the better of me. I stepped aside, letting them in. They walked straight to my living room like they owned the place. Mom perched on the couch, smoothing down her shirt like she was preparing for some serious negotiation. Dad remained standing, shifting awkwardly. "All right," I said, leaning against the wall. "What is it?" Mom gave a small, tight smile. "About last night." I arched a brow. "So they do feel bad. We need you to cover the bill." I blinked. "What?" She sighed, like I was being slow. "The dinner bill. It was a bit higher than we expected." My stomach dropped, then flipped right into rage. I stared at them, waiting for some kind of punchline. "You want me to pay for it?" Dad nodded, looking mildly uncomfortable. "You have some money laying around, right? I mean, you're doing well for yourself." A short, sharp laugh escaped my lips. "You're kidding." Mom shook her head, completely serious. Ryan's promotion was a big deal. We wanted to celebrate properly, but the bill ended up being more than we thought. Since you, she gave me a pointed look, didn't contribute in any other way, we figured you could at least help out financially. I actually felt lightheaded. You didn't even save me a seat. And now you want me to pay for it. Mom rolled her eyes. Don't be dramatic. Oh, I'm sorry, is this dramatic? I gestured wildly at them. Because I'm pretty sure you just showed up at my door to shake me down for money after pretending I don't exist. Dad cleared his throat. Look, we're not asking for the whole thing. Just a few hundred. I clenched my jaw. How much was the bill? Mom hesitated. $1,500. I nearly choked. $1,500? She had the audacity to look embarrassed. Well, we got some expensive drinks, and your uncle ordered a few extra things, and I cut her off. And why is this my problem? Mom sighed, acting like I was the unreasonable one. Ryan doesn't make as much as you, and we paid for most of his college. We thought it was only fair if you helped out. Just this once. Something inside me snapped. Oh, I see. You paid for his college, but not mine. And now, because I worked my ass off to make a decent living, you want me to bail you out after treating me like an afterthought for years. Mom's lips pressed together. We're family. I laughed. But this time there was no humor in it. No, we're not. Family doesn't do what you did last night. Dad sighed, rubbing his forehead like I was the exhausting one. Ryan's situation is different. He needed more support. Why? Because he's your favorite. Mom gasped. That's not true. Really? I raised an eyebrow. Then why did you pay for his college but tell me to figure it out on my own? She hesitated, her lips pressing into a thin line. You were always more independent. I scoffed. That's not an excuse. You made me independent because you didn't give me a choice. Meanwhile, Ryan gets everything handed to him, and I'm supposed to be okay with that. Dad's voice turned firm. This isn't about the past. Right now, we need help covering the bill, and you can afford it. I took a slow breath, my anger simmering just beneath the surface. Let me get this straight. You didn't invite me properly, didn't save me a seat, didn't call when I left. And now you're here asking for money like nothing happened. Mom crossed her arms. We didn't expect the bill to be this high. I rolled my eyes. Then maybe you should have ordered less. She huffed. Stop being petty. You know we'd do the same for you. I barked out a laugh. That's funny because you haven't. Not once. Dad's face darkened. We are your parents. You owe us some respect. That word, oh, made my blood boil. No, I said, my voice steady. I don't owe you anything. And for the first time in my life I meant it. That word, oh, made my blood boil. No, I said, my voice steady. I don't owe you anything. Mom's face twisted in shock, like she couldn't believe I was actually saying no. Dad, however, narrowed his eyes. Don't be selfish, he said. We've always supported you. I let out a short, sharp laugh. Supported me? Really? When I got into college on a full scholarship, did you celebrate? When I graduated with honors, did you even show up? When I got my first real job, did you call to say congratulations? No. But Ryan gets promoted 2 months into an entry-level job, and suddenly, he's the golden boy. Mom crossed her arms. You're twisting things. We love you both equally. Do you? I challenged. Because from where I'm standing, the only thing you seem to love about me is my bank account. Dad sighed, rubbing his temples as if I was the problem. Look, we didn't come here to fight. We just need a little help. That's all. You have plenty of money, and we're in a tough spot. I tilted my head. Oh, and how exactly do you know what's in my bank account? Neither of them answered. My stomach dropped. Did you go through my finances? Mom quickly shook her head. Of course not. Well, your aunt mentioned you got a big bonus recently, and we thought. I held up a hand, cutting her off. Stop. Just stop. They actually had the nerve to look offended. Mom switched tactics, her voice suddenly softer, almost pleading. Sweetheart, we love you. This was just a misunderstanding. You know we'd do the same for you. I stared at her, deadpan. You never have. She flinched, but I wasn't done. Not once in my entire life have you put me first. Not once have you celebrated my achievements the way you celebrate Ryan's. And now, the one time you actually reach out to me, it's not because you care, it's because you need money. Dad's voice turned cold. You're making a mistake. Family sticks together. I shook my head. No, real family does. You're just people who happen to share my last name. Mom's eyes widened, and for the first time, she looked genuinely hurt. But she recovered quickly, standing up and smoothing out her blouse. Fine. If that's how you feel, don't expect us to be there when you need something. A bitter chuckle escaped my lips. You were never there anyway. Their silence was deafening. I walked to the door and held it open. You can see yourselves out. They hesitated, like they wanted to say something else. But I just stood there, waiting. Finally, Mom huffed and stormed out. Dad followed behind her without another word. I shut the door, locking it behind them. Then, I exhaled slowly, the anger still buzzing beneath my skin. Something told me this wasn't over. The next morning, my phone wouldn't stop buzzing. I groaned, rubbing the sleep from my eyes before reaching for it. My lock screen was flooded with notifications, missed calls, texts, social media alerts. My stomach tightened. This wasn't good. I unlocked my phone, and the first thing I saw was a public post from my mother. It started off deceptively gentle, like she was just a poor, heartbroken mother trying to make sense of a cruel world. It pains me to write this, but sometimes, as parents, we have to face the heartbreaking truth that no matter how much love we give, some children will turn their backs on family. My blood ran cold. Last night, we celebrated a huge milestone for our son, Ryan. It was supposed to be a joyful occasion, a time for family to come together. But unfortunately, not everyone could share in our happiness. Our other son, let's call him N, showed up uninvited, made a huge scene, and then stormed out when he realized the world didn't revolve around him. I stared at my screen, barely able to process the sheer audacity. And if that wasn't enough, when we unexpectedly needed help with the bill, he refused, despite having more than enough to spare. I'm absolutely devastated that someone we raised with love could be so heartless, putting money above family. She made me the villain. And the worst part? People believed her. Hundreds of comments flooded in, all eating up her sob story. My aunt commented, "Some people don't deserve good parents. You did your best." A cousin I hadn't spoken to in years added, "Wow, I never knew he was like that. So disappointing." And then Ryan chimed in, "He's always been like this. It's just getting worse. I feel so bad for Mom and Dad." I clenched my jaw. Of course Ryan was milking this. He had always been the golden child, the one who could do no wrong. And now he had proof that I was the selfish one, the bad son, the disappointment. I checked my private messages. Sure enough, they were flooded too. Old classmates, family members, even coworkers. "Wow, I didn't expect this from you. That's so cold. You should be ashamed. How could you do this to your parents?" My hands trembled with rage. I wanted to scream, to reply and expose everything. The favoritism, the years of neglect, the truth about what really happened. But I knew how this worked. No matter what I said, they would be the victims. If I lashed out, it would prove their point, that I was cruel and ungrateful. If I tried to defend myself, they'd call me dramatic and tell me to just let it go. I forced myself to breathe. This wasn't just a petty family argument anymore. This was character assassination. And I had a choice. I could sit here, let them destroy my reputation, let them paint me as some heartless monster. Or I could fight back. But I wouldn't fight the way they wanted me to. I wouldn't get into a screaming match in the comments. I wouldn't beg for people to see my side. No, I would make them wish they had never pulled this stunt. I set my phone down, my mind already working through my next move. They wanted to play dirty? They had no idea what I was capable of. The rage inside me simmered, cold and calculated. I wasn't going to let them twist the truth and turn me into the villain of their perfectly curated sob story. If they wanted to rewrite history, they'd soon regret it. I opened my social media, took a deep breath, and started typing. Since my family has decided to publicly lie about me, I think it's only fair that I set the record straight. I wasn't going to say anything, but after waking up to dozens of messages calling me selfish, I realized something. I'm done protecting people who never protected me. So let's talk about what really happened. I laid it all out. I explained how I was invited under the illusion that I was wanted, only to arrive and discover that I wasn't even considered important enough to have a seat. I described how, instead of apologizing, my brother openly mocked me, how my parents let it happen, and how I quietly walked away. No drama, no scene. And then I dropped the real bombshell. But here's the kicker. Hours later, my parents showed up at my door, not to apologize, not to ask if I was okay, but to ask me to pay for the entire $1,500 dinner. The same dinner I wasn't even welcome at. The same dinner where they didn't think I deserved a seat. And when I refused, they ran to social media to paint me as the bad guy. I made it clear. I wasn't the one who made a huge scene. I wasn't the one who put money over family. That was them. I hit post. And then I waited. It didn't take long. First, there was silence. And then, one by one, people started seeing through the lies. Distant relatives who had witnessed years of favoritism started commenting, saying they weren't surprised. Old family friends messaged me, apologizing for ever believing my parents' version of events. Even people who didn't know me personally could see the manipulation. Ryan tried to double down, calling me dramatic. But it was too late. People weren't buying it anymore. My parents? They went silent. No apology. No attempt to fix what they'd done. Just gone. And honestly, I didn't care. Because for the first time in my life I was free. Free from their expectations. Free from the endless cycle of being overlooked. Free from the constant battle of trying to prove my worth to people who never valued me in the first place. This wasn't a loss. It was a rebirth. I share this story not for sympathy, but because I know I'm not the only one. Some people are born into families that will never truly see them. Some of us spend our whole lives fighting for a place at a table that was never meant for us. But here's the truth. You don't need their table. You can build your own. Now, I want to hear from you. What do you think about this situation? Drop a 2 in the comments if you think I did the right thing. Drop a 7 if you think I should have handled it differently. And if you found this story compelling, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to Mr. HeartVibes for more stories that will make you think, feel, and question everything. Because sometimes the best thing you can do for yourself is walk away.